Hey, it's 7 grains of salt. Don't panic about the Wuhan virus, especially if you trust in God. We should not be living in fear, but trusting in what God has said. Let's watch some clips and let's see what some other people have to say about this.
The line between disinformation and misinformation is not always an easy one to find.
Governments need to be willing to do things that are out of their historical perspective, or for the most part, it's really a war footing that we need to be on.
It can happen quickly. A Marshall-type plan, don't mean to say that exactly, but a Marshall plan that can go into effect can stimulate a change very quickly.
The distrust relates to the health system more generally.
A step up from the part of the government on enforcement actions against fake news.
I think a couple of things we have to consider are, even before this began, the anti-vaccine movement was very strong, and this is something specifically through social media that has spread.
Welcome to Event 201.
And thanks to one of my subscribers who mentioned omegashock.com. And I really think we need to take this approach, especially as believers, and just take a listen. Let's have a few moments of his and also TM Films, who I'm going to show a few clips of as well. Let's take a look.
So let me get this out of the way first. If you are not in China, you'll be fine. Where did this virus come from? The Hunan, or the Huanan, seafood wholesale market. Right here. Here in Taiwan, we began hearing about unusual cases of pneumonia in December, but we were so caught up in the election that we didn't pay much attention. But once the election dust settled, we started getting more and more reports. One guy, an HVAC specialist, started telling us to stockpile surgical masks weeks ago. It was only a matter of time before headlines started popping up in the hysterical mainstream media. That's when the morons in Wuhan chose to act. What did they do? They evacuated the Huanan seafood wholesale market and scrubbed it clean, without saving a single sample for microbiologists to examine. So now we don't know what animal has been harboring this virus. Then the morons in charge decided to throw a communal dinner nearby where everyone would pack together, share food from communal dishes, and cough in each other's faces. There was not one word of any need to engage in any kind of quarantine from these people. No messages to wash hands, no broadcast of the need for surgical masks, no mention of the wisdom in avoiding crowds. Nothing. A coronavirus is the wrong kind of virus for a bioweapon. It's not contagious enough, and the death rate is way too low. And we have plenty of nice and deadly viruses and bacterium to choose from that would do far more damage than this Wuhan virus. So stop the insanity. In fact, let's throw a little logic at the hysteria. Remember that this virus is a coronavirus closely related to SARS, or the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. SARS infected 8,000 people and killed less than 800. While a 10% death rate is high, it is not nearly as lethal as Ebola. Therefore, even if this virus is 10 times worse than SARS, as many headlines are screaming, it will be less deadly than Ebola and will kill fewer people than the common flu, which kills about 600,000 people every year. This doesn't mean that the Wuhan virus isn't dangerous or that we shouldn't pay attention to it. This is why governments outside of China are proceeding quickly to reinstate and reinstitute the screening of passengers. For instance, Taiwan has restarted the temperature scanning of anyone entering the country. Personal hygiene in China is really bad, almost at third world levels. They don't wash their hands, they spit massive gobs of phlegm onto the streets, spattering anyone nearby. I've been there. They let fly with sneezes and coughs without covering their mouth in any way. Food handling is horribly unhygienic, and their idea of a clean plate is, well, you don't want to know. For get caught by the morons spreading hysterical theories about how this virus will kill millions and destroy the world. And this is only one of many hysterical topics that people need to step away from.
IMF So they laid it all out there, all out in the open beforehand. Coronavirus created, the whole plan has been set in place for the aftermath of the release of this outbreak, and it's all put in place. The vaccine rollout, the censorship that will follow suit to quell any dissent, anybody speaking out, the censorship in place for the aftermath, you name it, all in this exercise called Event 201.
Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
How much control of information should there be? And
Coronavirus, Google Coronavirus Pandemic Global Exercise, October 2019, 65 million deaths expected. And of course, Bill Gates predicted 33 million deaths. Covered just, also that was covered by Jeff C. in a stream just earlier today.
And that was by TM Films, and I'll add all the links below. But under also Omega Shock, I really enjoyed one comment, and let's look at that together. And this was below in the omegashock.com, and a born-again Christian nurse says, "Here's another way to look at it, because I'm a complete coward. I pray for a quick and merciful death. What could be easier than having a seriously bad cold for a few days and then just losing consciousness from respiratory failure and floating off to heaven? Bring it on." Amen. I mean, we should not live in fear at all, but just pray and know that God is in control of everything.
one thing we haven't spoken about, and I'm wondering whether it's time to talk about this, is a step up from the part of the governments on enforcement actions against fake news.
And listen to this. The original SARS patent expired today because they didn't pay for the maintenance fee. So instead of keeping up with the maintenance fee, they just released a new virus. And you'll see in a couple minutes why this is so special. And it says right here, this invention was made by the CDC and is owned by the U.S. government. Which normally I expected the Rockefeller Foundation or the Gates Foundation to own this, or at least have done the research, but this time it's just owned straight up by the CDC.
Now I urge everyone to please take all this information in with a grain of salt, from every source, whether it's this channel or from your sold-out corporate media. Please do your own research. I do not have any vested interests. This channel is not monetized, so I do not profit financially or in any way, really.
It's the bill.
I think a complementary tactic, too, is to tap faith-based organizations and civil society and other institutions to recruit them also to basically, almost at a grassroots level, continue to basically have the integrity of the information.
I just want to make sure you heard that. So the 501c3 churches, all those that are under the government, they're going to have to comply. So let's listen to that one more time.
I think a complementary tactic, too, is to tap faith-based organizations and civil society and other institutions to recruit them also to basically, almost at a grassroots level, continue to basically have the integrity of the information.
And just also to keep in mind that Event 201 was supported and paid for by, as you can see, Johns Hopkins, World Economic Forum, and Bill and Melinda Gates. But there was also, as you heard in the video, the government, since they own the patent. So what does this mean? As you heard, just to make sure you definitely heard it, martial law can come quickly. Faith-based organizations are going to be pulled into this, so all the 501c3 who are controlled by the governments are going to have to comply. And then they're going to control the media as well. So if the media is totally shut down, that's it. You're not going to get the information. All I can say is this is not meant to be in fear, as many have said. Don't trust me, do your own research, and most importantly, pray and trust in God. He will supply us with all our needs and give us protection in these times. So don't worry. All right, that was a quick bit of information. I hope that helped everyone, and there's so much more, and I'll add all the links below for those who are interested in watching them in full. God bless, and take care.